You know, no matter how much I consider myself in control of my emotions and to be at least somewhat emotionally intelligent, I still find myself stressing over small things. Maybe not stress is not the right word, but maybe concern, or, maybe a little bit of worry to make sure that the things I do are done properly. If you don't have some form of stress in your life, then it's very hard to be pushed to really accomplish anything. If you're hungry, you're going to go find food. If you're thirsty, you're going to find water. But when you're mentally distressed, sometimes we don't fill that bag as much as we should, and we tend to kind of push it to the back of our minds. I'm heading off to work right now, going to a job that I haven't been to in a couple months. I guess I'm doing the very few final details. We were there for a couple months doing a full remodel, and I'm just going in to put the last 2 vent covers in and a little ceiling access for the attic. So I had to go to my boss's and pick it up this morning and then drive back out here to Camas. And it's a beautiful drive. It's out in the cut. I love it out here. The mountains are beautiful. And I know the homeowners, I know the location, but still there's this little pit in my stomach, like, is all this going to go smooth? Is everything going to go right? Am I going to be able to get it in? I've got 2.5 hours before he has to go to a meeting. Like, can I get this all done in 2.5 hours? But in the big picture, it doesn't even matter. If something happens and I don't get it done, just come back later, right? And when we think through the reason why we're worried, we find 99% of our stresses never come true, never even happen. And this is a pretty well-known, phenomenon, that most of what we worry about never happens. And there is a particular quote, but I won't attribute it to any specific philosopher or thinker because I don't recall who said it. And as I've said before, it really doesn't matter who said a quote. What matters is that the quote is out there, and so many of these are based on these very similar archetypes that, understanding a little bit of Joseph Campbell's work on the hero's journey and can go a long way. In fact, my brother and I were talking about Star Wars the other day, and the good and evil, and that story of the hero's journey. George Lucas was inspired by, by a lot of that work that was done by people like Joseph Campbell, and he was inspired directly by Joseph Campbell and used that in the storyline. And the part of these stressors that we have, this call to action sometimes, like this is a different type of stress than your daily mundane, oh, I have to go to work, or this might happen, or that might happen. But then there's this deeper anxiety within us that it doesn't have to do with anything that we need to do to survive, but it has to do with what our minds need to thrive, and that is purpose and direction. You can have all the money in the world, you can even have all the friends in the world, and all the family you can imagine, and all the love, and all the things that we think that we want, and you find in the end that there's one thing missing: purpose. And we have to create that for ourselves. No, it doesn't have to be complicated. I'm not out there, changing the world. I'm just out there changing homes one carpentry project at a time, right? And I just do my little part. I think that's one of the most rewarding discoveries, is that we don't have to be great, because we are great in what we do, that every person has something to contribute to the greater whole. And we don't have to look down on ourselves or compare ourselves. As I believe it was Mark Twain that said, comparison is the thief of joy. Yes, I can definitely agree with that one. And then again, Mark Twain also said, it's easier to fool a man than to convince him he's been fooled. And here I am saying quotes and telling you who they are from after I just said it doesn't matter. It's funny, isn't it? Well, I'm about 4 or 5 minutes away from the job site, and I guess I better hang up the hat here. So, thanks for coming along. What are your thoughts? You know, what do you think? Is stress something that we should overcome? In the sense that there's so many people out there taking anxiety medications, and when I was in my 30s, I went through a pretty stressful episode, and it wasn't anything in particular, just raising kids, getting to midlife, figuring out what I really wanted to do and be, and saying, whoa, I'm getting older, you know. But this stress is something I had to deal with, so I pinned it down and I studied, and I wanted to know what I needed to do to overcome this, because I wasn't going to live with it. And I've managed to do a pretty good job, but there's also part of me that knows that sometimes that stress is what drives us. So you don't want to lose it completely and just drown it out with pharmaceuticals. That's not the way to go about it. Some stress is good. So with that said, I bid you farewell. Hope you all have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you next time.